This is John for Global Traveler. This morning, I have the pleasure of talking travel and baseball with former Major League catcher Danny Sheaffer. How are you, sir?
I'm great this morning. How are you?
I am excellent. We're going to talk about your book. You have a book coming out, Keep Digging, Discovering the Greatest Story Ever Told Through the Greatest Game Ever Played. And I do
Right.
agree it is the greatest game. We're going to talk about that, but I want to get a little background on you first. When did you know that you were really good at baseball?
Well, I got a late start. I didn't start till I was almost 12 years old, but um, at that age, guys they mature quickly at times. Some of us don't. Some of us were late bloomers, but I guess to answer your question, once I got to high school, that's where we started to separate ourselves from others.
Is it true that your dad volunteered you for catching? Is that how you got started in catching?
Well, not really. When I my first practice, I didn't own a glove or a bat, and a quick story, I went to the coach and he asked me where I played, and I said I don't know, and he sent me to left field, and that was pretty boring, and no balls would come out there, and then a ground ball hit a third baseman in the chin, and he threw his glove down and started crying, and the coach asked me if I could play third, and I said sure if I can use his glove, and then a couple minutes later, the catcher got hit with a foul tip during batting practice, and where he got hit, nobody wants to get hit. And
Oh,
they asked me if I could catch, and I said no, I didn't want to do that. And the coach said, "Well, if you want to play on this team, you'll learn to catch." And that's when I was about 12 years old. But no, my dad wasn't at the first practice. He dropped me off and had to go to his second job, so I was all on my own.
okay. Well, when you made it to the majors, you hit a home run in your first game.
Hmm.
How exciting was that?
Well, it was a long time coming because I'd spent about 6 years in the minor leagues, and when I finally broke in 1987, we were playing in Milwaukee, and there's some Hall of Famers all over that club. With Wade Boggs and Jim Rice, and then you have Robin Yount and Paul Molitor and some others with the Brewers. But I hit a home run in the seventh inning to tie the game, and I hit it off Chris Bosio on a 2-0 count. And the elation was short-lived because B.J. Surhoff hit one in the bottom of the seventh to beat us.
Well, you still had the home run in your first game.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of cool.
Now, did you ever collect baseball cards when you were a kid?
I did not. I was more of an outdoor kid and really didn't. I had no dreams of playing baseball whatsoever.
Wow.
When I was a kid, I played wiffle ball with my brothers, and the reason I played was because on the playground one day during recess at elementary school, uh, one of the kids kept teasing me because we were playing kickball, and I could always throw a ball and get people out. And he kept teasing me because I wouldn't go out for his little league team, and so that kind of forced me into either fighting him or trying to join a team. And I'm glad I did.
So did appearing on a baseball card mean anything to you then once that actually happened?
Uh, well, yeah, it took a while because actually there's not many cards out there. I played in the big leagues in '87 and '88, in partial years for the Red Sox, and then '89 for the Indians, and none of those cards, none of those card companies, ever printed a card until I got to the Rockies in '93. And of course, we had minor league cards, but to see my face and statistics and all the stuff on the back of the card, finally when I got to the big leagues was real special.
So I got one more home run question for you. When you were with the Cardinals, you hit a grand slam against the Rockies.
Yeah.
As a former team, does that is that any extra special, or is it just business and you're just obviously happy with the grand slam?
Yeah, it's way more than business. I spent 2 years in Colorado, and the first time back, I hit a home run off Juan Acevedo at Coors Field, and then we were back again in August. And Bruce Ruffin had struck me out the night before on 3 straight sliders, and so in the ninth inning, when I was called on to pinch hit with the bases loaded, and we were down by 2 runs, he threw me a first pitch slider, and it was hit real well, and it was real special. And probably the most special part of that day was hitting first base and Galarraga congratulating me, and Eric Young when I got to second, and Walt Weiss when I got to short, and Charlie Hayes when I got to third. And when I crossed home plate, Joe Girardi was catching, and he winked at me. So it was a pretty special day.
Just hearing those names gives me chills. I love talking baseball. Um, You played in a lot of different cities, and obviously, while playing for those cities, you traveled to a lot of other cities.
Mhm.
Do you have any special memories of any cities out there?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, our home field in St. Louis has a lot of memories, but I loved playing in San Diego. I loved playing in San Francisco, just the culture of the city, and it's gone downhill a little bit since then. But the historic ballparks like Fenway Park and Wrigley Field, especially Wrigley, was great. You learn really quickly to adapt and to interact with fans, so they make your stay very pleasant. They can make your stay not pleasant if you're not nice to them, but just the older parks, Wrigley and Fenway, were great. Didn't get a whole lot of time in Yankee Stadium, but I did play there. But the old ones hold a special place in my heart.
Did you guys get a lot? Oh, not a lot, but did you guys get a fair amount of time to check out cities when you were playing?
Oh yeah, we did. I was one of those guys. There were teammates that would sleep until noon or 1 o'clock and get up and have a quick bite and go to the ballpark. I was always up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and using public transportation and just seeing the sights, and always liked traveling. So now that I'm retired and my kids are spread out all over the country, it's kind of nice to go and take them to places that I experienced.
So one last travel question: what are one or two things that either as a player or now that you must bring on a trip of any sort that you want to bring with you?
Um, well, uh, that's a good question. Obviously, you want to bring your phone because you can take pictures, but you know, um, you know, I like to read about the cities before I get there a little bit and find out where the hot spots are, where the good restaurants are, where the cultural sites are. I don't like to go just blind and discover it myself. I like to read about it before I get there.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about your book.
Mhm.
What made you decide to write the book now?
Interesting. I was in spring training my last year in professional baseball. It was either my 39th or 40th year. I'm not sure, and we were in spring training, and we were coaches, staffs. We were doing meetings, and at that point, the real analytical part of the game was coming in, and people were always trying to build a better mousetrap, and people were always just telling us how much they knew. And of course, there's got to be a mix between old school and new school, no doubt about it. But I was bored, and I was tired of, rebranding stuff that we always knew in baseball, and just to sound really smart. So I just started writing, and I started writing about my journey, and I started writing about the first day in Little League when I got teased on the playground, and took that through state championship in Pennsylvania the next year, and Eastern Regionals right before the World Series in Williamsport. Um, just kept going, and I handwrote the book.
Wow.
I got about 500 pages, 450 pages before I stopped, and I got through all the ups and downs, all the challenges, the life in minor league baseball, major league baseball. Some stories that I'm not proud of that I wanted to put out there that would maybe help others, some distractions and derailments and things like that. And at the end of about a year or so, I looked up and I had 500 pages written, and it just stayed dormant for about 3 years. And my son, my older son Daniel, said, "Why don't you just put it in a book?" And so, of course, I had to put it on a Word document, and through some friends, connected me with editors and copy editors and publishers and copy design and cover designers, and what I took as just a hobby of writing down my life story became a pretty interesting book, and so it's ready to go.
So during the writing process or after reflecting on it, did you learn anything about yourself, about your career?
Yeah, I did. My life has a couple of different levels on it. I was wild and crazy when I was very young, for sure, and probably not much of a filter, I gained discipline through this game. I gained discipline through my faith. Baseball Chapel became an integral part of my life, and the subtitle of the book, "Discovering the Greatest Story Ever Told," which I think is the gospel through the greatest game ever played, which is the game of baseball. And so I married the two, and that's how I ended up here. And so the book was written as an encouragement to families, to players, to anybody that may want to do something like this or know somebody that does. But in the end, what I learned the most was, even when I thought I was in control of my life, I wasn't. I knew the sovereignty of God was there. I knew that he had a plan for me. And even though I tried to screw it up royally, he didn't let it happen.
And what do you hope that readers take from the book, aside from your statistics and all that? What do you hope I, as a reader, will find in that book?
That when I started writing the book, I didn't know how it was going to end, because I wasn't done writing it yet. I wasn't done. My journey wasn't done in baseball. But when someone reads the book, I want them to understand what discipline means, what disappointments can come into your life and how you can rise above those. How if you just stay faithful and continue to honor God in your life, that ultimately, he will be glorified. And it's not about me. The gospel's not about me. It's about Christ. And so when someone reads my book, there's a lot of entertaining stories in it. Trust me, there's some things I'm not proud of, but there's some things that'll blow people's minds. But the end of the book is, stay faithful, keep your nose to the grindstone, don't quit no matter what. And, hence the title, Keep Digging.
And with the book being done, looking back on everything now, could you look back and go like, really, you've had a really interesting career. You had an interesting life. Are you able to feel that?
I am. My family sat around the living room the other night and started. I do have copies of my book now, even though it's not available until the 10th of June on Amazon. But we sat around and each of my kids and my wife read a chapter. Oh. And, we were, even though it was stuff that was old hat to me and I knew what the next line would say, I had no idea that my family knew nothing about how my journey went. Wow. And I've been married 37 years and my wife would say, I can't believe that happened to you, or I can't believe you didn't quit at that time. And just things that my kids, my son played 6 years professional baseball for the Seattle Mariners. And so he knows the lifestyle. My older son pitched in college and he knows the lifestyle, and they traveled with us everywhere. And my daughter, she was born after I was done playing. But when they started reading the book, it was almost as if they read it for the first time, because they didn't know some of the stories they were reading. And, the adventures that happened, the managers that I played for, and, the thousands of people I played with. I look back and I managed probably 200 major league players as a manager. And, so, the book is meant to encourage and to teach discipline and how to just keep on going no matter what.
And aside from publishing the book, what's next for you in life?
Okay. Well, the book is, like I said, set to go on Amazon it's pre-ordered now on Amazon. It's launched on the 10th of June. Next for me, I built a training facility here in North Carolina. I have kids in 6-7 days a week. I've got hundreds of kids coming through the doors, and so their dreams of playing in the major leagues and their parents' dreams of them playing in the major leagues, I don't discourage them. I give them the reality of it. The numbers are not good, but you can learn so many lessons through this game of baseball and apply it to life that you can be very, very successful in whatever you do. Just don't listen to others. The world will tear you down. They'll tell you can't do it. never set out to prove anybody wrong. That's one thing that in my book that you'll notice that I've never set out to prove anybody wrong, but I did set out to prove myself right. And so with that was accomplished. But as far as the naysayers, I don't have time for negativity.
You know, I was going to end there, but I had one last question because you brought it up and it just clicked in my mind. You live in the Mount Airy, North Carolina area.
Mm-hmm.
Mayberry, big Mayberry area. Is there still
Yeah.
a lot of stuff there?
Yeah. If you walk down Main Street, I mean, it's almost like going back in time and being in the town. Everything that's in the show is in the town.
Wow.
From Floyd's Barbershop to Snappy Lunch to Emmett's Fix-It Shop, the old jail. We got Pilot Mountain, which they call Mount Pilot, right down the road. My father-in-law, who was 98 years old, actually grew up at the same time Andy Griffith lived in this town. So,
Wow.
They kind of went to school together a little bit. So yeah, it's our town is transitioning into different things because the Andy Griffith show won't last forever. But there's a lot of wineries here. There's a lot of tourism. But yeah, Mayberry is exactly what you see on TV.
Listen, it's been a real pleasure. I mean, I followed your career. I love the fact that you became a utility player of sorts to keep your career going, get more playing time. I love hearing stories of old baseball. I've got about 50 autobiographies of baseball. Yours will be added very soon. It's obviously June 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Before I let you go, tell everybody once again where and when they could find your book.
You can go on Amazon.com, and if you, in the search bar, put Keep Digging and put my name behind it, Danny Sheaffer, Sheaffer, you'll find the book. It's available on Kindle. It's available on paperback. And, there's ways to contact me in the back of the book. If you have any questions, I'll be happy my email's in there. If you have any questions on anything in the book, or if you need any just questions answered on anything that's in the book, you can reach me. But also there's a email on how to contact me for speaking engagements, whether it be at your facilities or at your churches or conventions or whatever. I'm available for that.
Well, if you ever get out to the Chicago area, dinner's on me. I would love to meet you sometime.
Well, I would say that I'm going to be there because my son is a pastor in Peoria, Illinois, with his family. And so when we go to Peoria, we get to Chicago quite often. So I have your info and I'll contact you.
If you ever have a little extra time you're here, I'd love to meet you, take you out for lunch, talk some old baseball. Until
Perfect.
then, really, I appreciate your time, your effort. I encourage everyone to check out Keep Digging. From the reviews that I've seen already, it's fantastic. Hearing you talk about it makes me want to get it even more. I can't wait for it to come out. I encourage everyone else to check it out.
Thank you. I have a nonprofit foundation called the Sheaffer Foundation, where the proceeds from the book will benefit that. And so I'm not in this to make a dollar. I'm in it to give it away. So buy the book and you'll help others.
Even better, sir. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Danny.
All right. Bye.